some stock photo, right? Pretty much the last thing I ever wanted to do, but I made the most of it, of course, right? Now, the upside of that office job was that I was actually working at the Dr. Phil show in Hollywood as an office PA. PA just stands for production assistant. Now, through that job, I met one of the camera crews for the show. They found out I had gone to school for audio, and they said, Blair, why on earth are you working here in the office? You could be out here in the field with us doing sound for TV. Now, they said that the audio guys they knew were able to work whenever they wanted to. They were making great money, and you get to get out of the office for good. Now, honestly, it had never even occurred to me that I could use my audio skills in the world of television. Now, you know how it is when you're in the world of music. Television is usually the furthest thing from your mind, or at least it was for me, all right? Now, fast forward a couple months, and I actually ended up going and working in that camera crew's gear rental house in Burbank, California, prepping gear for shoots, cleaning it up when it came back in from a shoot, and really learning the ins and outs of the gear. Now, it was tough, though, because I was only making like $10 an hour working in their warehouse, and in Los Angeles, that really doesn't go very far. So, but then one day, as I was prepping some gear to go out on a big reality show called Renovate My Family, which was Fox's version of Extreme Home Makeover, if you remember that one, one of the owners of the gear rental company came in and said, all right, Blair, you're going to Chicago with me next week, and I'm sorry, but I could only negotiate a $1,500 a week flat rate for you as A2. Now, depending on where you are in your career, that may or may not sound like much money to you, but I'll tell you, at the time, that was the most money I had ever made. That was more than double what I had been making as an office PA at the Dr. Phil show. Now, I tried to play it cool when he told me that, but I seriously about messed my pants right there. I was so stoked, guys. Well, that trip to Chicago turned into a 6-month tour all over the country, and even though I was only working as a lowly A2, I quickly moved up the ranks from A2 to mixer to multi-track mixer, and honestly, it was that one gig that really set me up for life in this career. Because by the time I had come out the other end of that grueling 6 months, I had honed my chops to where I was as good as any other reality mixer out there. Now, on top of that, that 6-month gig opened the door to so many other opportunities for me just from meeting that one crew. Seriously, I still keep in touch with a lot of those guys even now more than 10 years later. So that was the hard way. 4 years of music recording school, $50,000 in tuition, struggling for more than a year in Los Angeles, starting at the bottom of the totem pole in production and working my way up to sound mixer. Total time it took me more than 5 years to figure this thing out. And even then, now I want you guys to notice this. It wasn't until someone who was already in the business actually showed me the ropes that it really started for me, okay? Are you guys getting this? Okay, well, let me ask you this. Do you want the easy way that's going to allow you to skip all of that? Do you want to skip that whole paying your dues process? I mean, think about it. What's it going to be like when you're out there working on all these shows, and then a few months later you're seeing them all over TV, and you're telling your friends and family, yeah, I worked on that one. Oh, yeah, I worked on that other one. What would that be like? Well, I'll tell you what it's going to be like. It's going to be awesome. I mean, think about it. When you're out there working as a pro-level sound mixer, what's your family going to say? Well, I'll tell you what mine said. My dad told me, geez, Blair, you're making more money than I am in my corporate job. Now think how strangely awesome that would be. Well, at least it was for me when he said that to me. Guys, do you want to jump right into doing these awesome gigs? I mean, what would your friends say when they see all these pictures of you on Facebook, having a blast at work, on the beach, at sporting events, behind the scenes, meeting celebrities, all the while they're stuck in their office job wishing they were you? What would you do with your life? What would you do different? What if you could make 6 figures a year and actually love your job at the same time? I mean, can you imagine what that's going to be like when you're an established sound mixer? What's it going to be like when you look at the past month and you've got $12,000 in paychecks from it? What would you do with that much money? Seriously, at the end of my first year as an established mixer, I literally had about $60,000 sitting in my bank account. Now, don't worry, it's all gone now, though. I got married and had kids. Maybe you know what that's like. Maybe you don't. But seriously, what would you do with that kind of cash? It's pretty exciting, don't you think? I mean, would your family stop telling you to get a real job? Mine did. So to tally it up, In the past 3 years alone, I've made over $250,000, and I still took 3 months off every year. Now, I don't say that to impress you. I say that to impress upon you how real this career can be for you. Think about that. Isn't that awesome? I think it's awesome. But okay, before we go any further, I do want to make one thing very clear here, people. These results are not typical. Now, I'm going to walk you through exactly how I got into this business and show you what worked for me. And really, that's what I just took you guys through when I told you my story. Now, my results are certainly not typical, and the average person who attends any training like this gets 0 results. However, I'm happy to show you exactly what's worked for me and my other students totally free. This is not for get-rich-quick people or anybody who doesn't respect the fact that anything worthwhile in life requires effort. Does that make sense? Okay, cool. All right, now with that out of the way, let's get to the good stuff, all right? I told you guys I'm going to show you how to make $104,730 a year as a reality TV sound mixer and still take 3 months off every year. However,
right,
to
go
take it
ahead,
even further, I reveal my 3.
Okay. Okay. So what? Tell me what your thoughts are of the introduction. What are you thinking?
I mean, the only thing I was wondering about is, you know, is it kind of a jarring transition to go from telling my story to going to, you know, all those future-pacing questions, you know, what's it going to be like for you when you're, you know, working on all these cool shows, you know? Is there too much of that in there, or does it really fit? You know what I mean?
Okay.
Does it sound too salesy or whatever?
Okay. What else what else do you think?
I mean, I think you know, I had tested out doing a like a hook to the end where, you know, you get this freebie or whatever, but now I'm using that freebie as my little tripwire offer on the registration thank you page. But fortunately, I haven't seen it really affect the drop-off rate through the attendees on the webinar, so it doesn't seem to make an effect whether I have that freebie at the end or not. And also, just by the way, this is a recording of the webinar that I use on the auto webinar funnel that I have. So typically when I do this live, I'm actually, you know, I'm waiting for people to respond in the chat box and that sort of thing.
Okay. So in terms of the future pacing, I think the future pacing is fine. I actually think it's really good. I think it's it's really well done. I really like your introduction for the most part.
Okay.
I mean, I think you know, you being break even right now it's a telltale sign that people want this and they need it, and there's a few things that we can change. One thing that I would do is let's back up a little bit. Tell me who your target audience is. Who's your ideal customer?
So, well, the perfect ideal customer is somebody who has already tried to build up his career as a reality TV sound mixer, but just hasn't been able to get it to a point where it's his full-time income. With those guys, it's usually just, you know, they go through like, you know, a few of my videos and then they make an extra 15 grand over 2 months. You know what I mean? And I actually have a testimonial from one of those guys. That's the ideal. Then let's see, probably the majority of students that come in are people that are not in reality TV at all, but they have some sort of audio background. Maybe they, you know, like in my story, I ran sound for my band, or maybe they went to recording school and they were doing music recording, and it's just not paying enough money for them to make a living. And then they, you know, they hear this, and you know, so those are really cool to take as well, because they've got the audio background, and really, in my opinion, it's that if they have that audio background, it really makes it a lot easier to sell them on the idea, because they're already technically minded, they already have sort of that engineering mindset, and it's not as far of a jump for them mentally.
So you're saying the majority of the people who get on your webinar, they are interested, they have an audio background, but they're not in reality TV. Is that correct?
Yeah, so they're either not in reality TV or still in school. You know, one of my most effective interest groups that I target on Facebook is Full Sail University, which is, if you're familiar, it's down in Orlando. It's like a film school and recording arts school, that sort of thing.
So my question really is, where is the bigger opportunity? I mean, how big is this reality TV sound mixer market? Is it easy to get a hold of these people, or is it let me just leave it at that. Is it
Yeah.
is it easy to get a hold of them?
I think so. And I see two primary markets that I can go after. The warmer market are the people that are already in either film school or the film and television industry, and then separate from that are all the people in the music recording industry. So the music and the film and television, they kind of stay separate. They're like two different worlds, even though they're all audio, right? And so the larger world is the music recording. Okay, so but that would be more, colder traffic. They're not familiar with all the jargon of television production, that sort of thing.
Okay, all right.
So
So,
that big
so your ideal customer is the reality TV sound mixer, and they're struggling to make a living. But you said the majority of the people, they have some sort of audio background. They're just not in reality TV, right?
Yeah, they're either not in reality TV or they haven't even really started their professional career yet because they're still in school.
Okay, then if that's the majority of the people who are on your webinar,
Hmm.
what we need to do in the beginning is we need to do a couple of things. First of all, we need to speak directly to them and present the opportunity in a frame that they're going to understand. So there's a couple ways that you can do that. First of all, you can have who is this for? You can have a who is this for slide. Like, you want to make sure that these people who are on know that you're speaking directly to them, and you kind of you do it with your jargon and you do it with your lingo
Yeah.
and whatnot. But I mean, if these people who are on, they aren't in the reality TV market already, you need to
Hmm.
present them with the opportunity. Okay, you
Okay.
need to be this enlightenment that says, hey, listen, like if you have never even considered the reality TV market, let me you know, let me spend a minute right now and just explain what is going on. Okay, this is your one big thing. Okay, or
Yeah.
this is your big idea. Your one big thing is your hook, right? How to make 100 plus grand with it
Yeah.
in the reality TV market. But your big idea is your revolution, right? You're trying to present this opportunity that exists in this reality TV market that the majority of your audience doesn't know about. Okay, so you need to be that advocate and spend some time at the beginning talking about why you're doing this. Like, you have a really good story, like of how to do it the hard way, and that's fine. Like, you can leave that as is, but at some point in the introduction, you need to find somewhere to insert who is this for and what is this big opportunity. Like why are people missing this? What are some stats? Like how many jobs are out there? How much? Find some hardcore market statistics that are proof that what you're talking about is real and the opportunity is large. Does that make
Cool.
sense?
Yeah, totally, totally.
Okay.
Yeah, that's
So
awesome.
yeah. So you definitely need you need some your credibility is fine, and that's not the word that I'm trying to find or I'm trying to use, but you need to have some sort of market validation and
Sure.
idea validation
Yeah.
for these people
Credibility
who
of the opportunity then. Yeah.
yeah. So these people who, they've got an audio background, that's great, but you need to be like, hey, listen, like if you know sound, like you have some experience in sound, but you just, you think there's no jobs out there, right? You're having a hard time
Yeah.
making ends meet, and you might even be like me, where I ended up working some desk job, and I can't remember what it was, but
Yeah.
I don't remember what job it was, but what was the job that you had that was
I was a
that you got?
PA, office PA, a production assistant.
Okay, all right. I thought it was just an office assistant. So anyway, but just basically talk to them, like talk to their current situation. Like if they're broke, they're probably working, really crappy job that might not even be audio related. Is an audio, and you're here to give them that opportunity
Yeah.
for how to find that job that will allow them to live their passion. Like those are the key trigger points that you need to hit in the beginning and get them to build that fire and get that excitement up and be like, okay, yeah, like I'm ready, like that's what I want. Like, tell me, Blair, like let's go. So, does
Cool.
that make sense?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, cool.
Definitely. And, you talked about, I should talk about why I'm doing this and, the big idea and the opportunity. For me, it's like, I was in the music world and struggling, right? And then all of a sudden, it was like an epiphany. These guys came along and said, why aren't you working on TV? You can make a lot of money. And it was like, holy cow, I never even thought of that before. And that's how the vast majority of music people are thinking right now. So if I can give them that epiphany like
Yes.
that, then, okay, I got you. I'm tracking you.
Cool, man. But overall, I'm in. Like, I like it. It's
Yeah,
I mean, you're really close, and I think your presentation skills are good, and
cool.
um, and your storytelling is good. It's just really got to get that big idea, and really got to connect with them and let them know that they're in the right spot, and you've been there before, and you're on the brink, but just got to get a little bit more honed in on who you're actually talking to, and then talk directly to them.
Cool.
All right,
Awesome.
so
I love it.
let's go ahead and hit play.
All right.
Big secrets about this, all right? Secret number one, I can make more money in reality TV than anything else, and I don't have to live in LA or New York to do it. Secret number two, I only need about 3 good clients a year to hit 6 figures. Do you think you could get just 3 clients in a year? Yeah, I think you could, all right? Secret number three, I don't need to own any expensive equipment to get gigs and to add 20 to 30% to my income through gear rentals, okay? So let's dive into secret number one. I can make more money in reality TV than anything else, and I don't have to live in LA or New York to do it. Now let me clarify something here for you guys. When I say reality TV, I'm not just talking about shows like Real Housewives and other what we call soul drainers like that. Now you notice from my story, I've worked a lot more kinds of shows than that sort of docudrama style. Anything from talk shows to competition shows, documentaries, process shows like on HGTV, travel shows, and more. So when I say reality TV, I'm talking about any sort of unscripted television production or video production, all right? Not just the so-called crappy reality shows. But let's take a look at that preconceived notion you might have about reality TV being a less desirable format to work in. Now, in my opinion, reality TV gets a bad rap, even if it shouldn't. Here's why. You see, excuse me, what typically happens is some non-reality audio guy does a day or two on a reality gig. Now, they don't know what to expect because they're not familiar with the format. Maybe they're used to doing scripted stuff like features and episodics. And so when they get to set and the whole production is running way different than what they're used to, it pisses them off. Totally understandable. Makes sense, right? So the problem is that when the gig is done, they go out and complain to the rest of the production about how reality TV is such an awful thing to work on. And they usually talk about 4 main gripes. So let's take a look at those, all right? First, they tell everyone that the pay is too low on reality shows. Now, that may or may not be true, as it depends on what you're comparing it to, all right? But let me tell you this story, okay? I was working on a reality show for Bravo last year, and one day on set, when we were waiting for the cast to get ready for their green screen interview, I was chatting with the camera operator about rates. Now, in case you guys don't know, camera operators will typically make about $100 to $200 more per day than a sound mixer. But here's the funny thing about that. As I was talking with this cam op, we actually, kind
Hey,
of
Blair,
danced
pause
around
this
the
real quick.
topic
Yeah.
and then started asking each other.
Yep.
I'm just taking notes real quick, and
Okay.
can you back up a little bit? You're back up to
Yeah.
the 3 secrets.
Good clients a year to hit 6 figures. Do you think you could get just 3 clients in a year? Yeah, I think you could, all right? Secret number 3, I don't need to own any expensive equipment to get gigs
Okay,
and
go ahead and
to
pause it again.
Okay.
So let's talk about this real quick. And okay, so if your ideal audience member is someone with an audio background but isn't exposed to TV, right? That's what you said. Most people don't know that they can make a lot more money in TV. Is that correct?
Right.
Okay. So you present the opportunity in secret number one, which I think is pretty good. I can make more money in reality TV than anything else, and I don't have to live in LA or New York City. Now, then you start talking, when you get into secret number one, you start talking about why reality TV gets a bad rap.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's what if I would go that route, because it's almost like you want to sell them on reality TV, and I'm sure you build it back up afterwards, but like you almost want to use secret number one to present the opportunity of reality TV. Like, your headline is good. I really like the headline, but I just don't know if I would start going down the road of why reality TV gets a bad rap. I would do something
Okay.
that compares where they are right now, which is with an audio background, and show them this opportunity of reality TV. Um, so anyway, I wanted to get that out, because it was like immediately when you went into secret number one, you're talking about why it gets a bad rap. That doesn't have anything to do with what you thought, what I was expecting to
Okay.
hear with secret number one.
Okay.
So it's just a mixed message here. Is I can make more money in reality TV than anything else, and I don't have to live in LA or New York City. Okay, you got me. I'm hooked. Now you go in and you talk about why reality TV gets a bad rap. It's like, oh shit, well, I thought you were just going to tell me about reality TV. So,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah. Well,
anyway,
I mean, really, the idea behind it was, I mean, reality TV really does kind of get a bad rap, but maybe that's just with my critics. It gets a bad rap. Maybe my target audience really doesn't know. So I hear what you're saying, and I think that's a great idea. I should probably not do the whole bad rap thing. I was using that section as a way to overcome that initial objection, but I think my best prospect is not thinking about why reality TV sucks.
right? They want money,
Right.
and if they want money, you're going to show them where the money is. Okay,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
yeah, I would speak towards more opportunities at that point, and just explain, and just explain why reality TV beats a dead end audio job, or whatever it is. And so, like, you almost want to convert people from audio to TV, or you want to convert them into the TV market. So
Yeah.
okay, let's go back and just play through the first secret. But I had to get that off my mind, otherwise I would have
Yeah.
forgotten about it.
No problem. Fast forward to where we were. I think it was about here. So I told this story about how I was making more than the camera operator. And the point was, if you're complaining about low pay, you don't get what you deserve, you get what you negotiate. So,
So yeah, so here's a good
uh,
formula that I like to use when I get into
hmm
all of my three secrets. Like, I always like to start with a story, so they can kind of envision what you're going to be talking about. So start with like a story where you experienced some sort of struggle, and then you overcame it, and then basically after you tell that story, just kind of like talk to that story and kind of elaborate, and dive in, and use some examples. But I always like to start with a story, then kind of explain what's really going on in the story. So you can
okay,
you can
cool.
use that if you want, but it's just an idea.
So start with the story and then use that story to make a point that goes along with that secret. Is that
Exactly.
correct? Okay.
Yep.
All right, cool.
So that story that you just mentioned about how you made more than the cameraman, that'd be a great story to start with. And
Okay.
so talk about that for 2 or 3 minutes or something, and then kind of explain why you were making more money, and then give them this opportunity, like, oh wow, like I can make more than the camera operator, like sweet. So anyway,
Okay.
let's
Yeah,
keep going.
cool. All right.
Negotiate. Now he paused for a minute as he thought about that, and then he said in a rather somber tone, Blair, truer words have never been said. Now, my point here is that if you're complaining about low pay on reality shows, ask yourself, who negotiated your rate? I'm betting you did. So don't complain about low rates, just negotiate them higher. And if you can't, don't take the gig. Makes sense, right? Okay, the next thing I have to tell you is that unless you're at the top of the food chain in the feature world, most features actually pay less than your typical reality show. Say what? Sounds pretty crazy, right? I thought it sounded crazy until I worked my first feature a few years ago. Now, it was a decent sized budget. I think it was like $2 million. Michael Landon Jr. was directing and producing it, so it had, somewhat of a name attached to it. And it was going to be a made-for-TV movie that was going to air on the Hallmark Channel, I believe it was. It's going to be 16 production days near my hometown in North Carolina. So I was definitely interested, all right? Now, incidentally, I only got the call for that gig because the production coordinator on it knew me from a reality show that she and I had worked on together the year before. Pretty interesting, huh? A reality show can lead to feature work, especially in this instance, all right? Anyway, so I tell her, yeah, that sounds like fun. Something new, something different than the usual reality shows I was working on. So she referred me over to the production manager, and he and I were to meet and discuss rates and everything else. So I got to this guy's office, and I was thinking, okay, this is a feature. This should be a decent rate. I was totally willing to even take a little pay cut if I had to, just so I could work near my hometown for a few weeks. Well, I got in there, and he offered me something like $275 a day plus gear, which, okay, just so you guys know, even when I started out in LA back in 2004, after that Renovate My Family show and I got back to LA, I never got paid less than $300 a day, which was the low end of the spectrum even way back then. And here this guy offers me $275 a day. Unfortunately, I had to turn him down at first, but then he called me back a few days later and said he could talk about going higher with the rate. Anyway, we went back and forth, and finally he just said, all right, Blair, let's just do $350 a day plus gear. That's all I can do. So I weighed my options for a moment. I finally told him, all right, let's do it. And again, I wanted to be near my hometown for a few weeks to spend time with the relatives, so I was willing to take a $200 to $300 a day pay cut to do that. Now, my point here is that the majority of feature work, especially when you're just starting out, is going to pay significantly less than a typical reality show. I bet some of you feature guys out there are listening to this and you're thinking, yeah, that sounds about right. Okay, so another gripe about the low pay is that reality shows are usually non-union. Well, actually, some of them are, in fact, union productions with good pay and health and pension benefits. Now, of course, it depends on the show, depends on the production company, but it's becoming more and more common these days to see union reality shows. And even if it's not union work, it's usually a decent rate. They pay meal penalties, they buy your lunch, they pay overtime, all that stuff that you would normally expect, all right? Which leads me to my next point here, and this is a big tip for you guys, all right? So take notes here. Never take a flat rate on a gig. Now, I know some of you guys are thinking, hey, he said earlier that his first A2 gig was a $1,500 a week flat rate, and you're right. It was. But I'll tell you what, I've only worked on a flat rate 2 times in my entire career. The first was that A2 gig, and the second was in 2010 as a department head for the Real Housewives of Atlanta. And so that was a decent rate as sound supervisor on that show, even if it was a flat rate. So, but if you guys do end up in a flat rate, just make sure you guard your time well, all right? You got to be able to balance getting the job done with not working 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, all right? You guys getting me here? Okay, so with all this stuff we're talking about here, I'm trying to open your mind to the idea that reality TV is actually a really good option for you guys. So I'm trying to break these myths and replace them with the truth, okay? All right, the next reason reality TV gets a bad rap is that they're usually longer hours. Well, to be honest, you know that feature I told you about a minute ago that I worked on? We worked longer hours on that than on a lot of the reality shows I work on these days. Probably because, in the feature world, they have a very strict production schedule for how many pages of the script they need to shoot each day. Whereas in reality TV, we go shoot the scenes that are happening that day, and then we go home. In fact, that's a picture of me on one of those little Hobie Cat sailboats, which, by the way, is one of my favorite things in the world to do. We're actually in Turks and Caicos in the Caribbean while on a job with the World Poker Tour. So, like I said, we shoot what we need to shoot, and then we go home, or in this case, we go sailing, right? Now, besides, even when you do go long, you're compensated handsomely for it, all right? You generally get double time after 12 hours, and the meal penalties can rack up pretty quickly. But even aside from that, some reality show days are actually much shorter. For example, on one of the more recent shows I was on, I regularly had 9-hour days while I'm still being paid on a 12-hour rate. All right, you guys getting this? Okay. All right, the next gripe that I hear about reality TV is that it's crappy content. Well, my question to you is, who cares? You're not always going to love the content of every single job you do. Now, if you're not producing your own content, then obviously you're working on someone else's content. Now, many times it's going to be enlightening and fascinating and all that stuff, but many times it's not going to be that way. But either way, this is not unique to reality TV. This applies across the entire production world. Your job is to do the best you can in your role on set. So no matter the content, you can do your best to record the audio as well as you can. Your job is the sound, their job is the content. Stay in your lane there, bub. Now, sometimes you're going to be set up for failure on some of these shows, and that can be very frustrating. Now, but what you got to remember is that it doesn't happen intentionally, and when it does happen, what is that? Well, that's a challenge that's going to keep things interesting for you on the job. In other words, you might find yourself asking yourself, how can I record the dialogue while they're in bikinis in a hot tub on a windy night on a cruise ship? Now, I only bring that up because that actually happened to me. I have asked myself that. It's time to embrace the challenge in those moments. That's what makes work fun. Am I right? Okay. So the last gripe I usually hear is that they don't like working with green producers. Some people complain about having to work with producers who are new at their job. And I'll admit, it can be frustrating at times when you have to take direction from someone who clearly doesn't know what they're doing. But the thing to remember is that you were green once too, and maybe you're still pretty green right now watching this, all right? So cut them some slack, all right, because there's a reward if you do. You see, green producers don't stay green forever. In fact, they move up the ladder pretty quickly, sometimes more quickly than you can as a sound mixer. And when they move up higher, they get more control of who they hire for their crew. And if you were supportive to them on set before, they're going to want to hire you again and again on all of their projects. Does that make sense? Okay, I want to make sure you guys are getting this stuff because this is what makes reality TV such a huge opportunity for you guys as a sound mixer. All right? In fact, I believe that reality TV is the single greatest opportunity for sound mixers in the last 20 years, all right, the last 2 decades. Not only has reality TV created more jobs for more sound mixers in more locations than ever before, but it's also one of the easiest types of productions for newbies to get into. Here's why, okay? Reality TV is here to stay. The American public eats them up and the networks love them because they're so inexpensive to produce. Now this means there are more shows to work on. And on top of that, the typical reality show is going to employ more sound mixers than the typical feature or scripted show. In fact, I just got booked on a show where we have 6 sound mixers plus a sound supervisor plus 2 A2s in the audio department. That's 9 audio people. Now compare that to the typical feature who has a mixer, a boom op, and a utility, just 3 people. Now even the smaller shows that only use 1 mixer at a time, even the smaller reality shows that just have 1 mixer on set, they still employ more audio people because they're going to rotate mixers in and out of the show as needed. Now, what all this means is that there is an increased demand for reality TV sound mixers, which means there's a huge opportunity here for you to jump in and ride this wave before everyone else figures it out. Now, the best part, you don't have to live in LA or New York to get work. I know some of you guys are seriously wondering about that, so let me explain why this is, all right?
All right, Blair, pause it real quick.
A lot of the reality shows don't shoot in LA.
Okay.
So the last 2 slides that you just did was that's your big idea. Okay, that's your big opportunity that you want to explain to people. So go back a couple slides.
Okay. Let's see. Okay.
Yep. Keep going. There was one more.
Okay. that there.
There it is. Reality TV is the single greatest opportunity for sound mixers in the last 20 years. Like that is your that's your big idea. Like that's your revolution. Okay, you're here to help other people realize this opportunity. So move those two slides to the front and talk to that in the beginning. So I just wanted to point that out.
So if I move those to the front of secret number 1, should I still even mention all the why reality TV gets a bad rap, or probably not?
No. Actually,
just cut that.
Let's finish secret number 1, and I'll go through my notes.
Okay. Let me jump back to where we were.
But even beyond that, lots of shows travel all around the country. For example, I just got booked on a competition reality show for ABC that's shooting in Greenville, South Carolina, and Hillsborough, Tennessee. Do you even know where Hillsborough, Tennessee is? I didn't know where it was. I had to look it up. It's actually about 45 minutes north of Chattanooga, city of my birth, incidentally, but that's a story for another day. But what I want you guys to know about this is that smaller budget traveling shows prefer to hire local sound mixers. So if you're a sound mixer in Chattanooga, you just got a gig. Well, actually, I got the gig, but you get my point here. The flip side of that is that bigger budget traveling shows will actually pay to travel the sound mixer, so they don't care where you live. All right, are you guys getting this? This is why you don't have to live in LA or New York to get gigs as a reality TV sound mixer. Now, I used to live in LA, but now I'm here in the Atlanta area, and there's lots of work in Atlanta these days. All right. So another awesome thing about reality TV is that it's easier for newbies to get into than any other format. Now, why is that? Well, from my perspective, it's because most of the old veteran crew guys don't want to do reality TV. So this leaves a lower supply and higher demand for sound mixers in reality TV. Makes sense, right? So that leaves plenty of room for you to get into this faster and easier than any other type of production. Now, besides that, reality TV is a much more forgiving format than any other format. This isn't Martin Scorsese's next opus. This is a bathroom remodel show, right? If you mess up the audio, you're usually going to be okay, and you'll get hired again and again. The bottom line is this, guys. You need to be taking advantage of these reality TV gigs, all right? Now, they can be a bit different than any other gig, but once you're in, it's totally worth it. Okay, are you guys getting this? Okay. All right, cool. Well, let's move on then to secret number 2.
You want to stop there?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, so secret number 1, why reality TV gets a bad rap. Or what was the headline again? That wasn't the headline.
I can make more money in reality TV than anything else, and I don't have to live in LA or New York to do it.
Okay, if your target market is, if the majority of people who are on this webinar, would you consider them newbies, people who aren't familiar with this market yet?
Yeah.
Okay, so they're newbies. So we need to take what you said at the end of secret number 1, why it's so simple for newbies to get into, and reframe that to keep them interested. Like the more I listen to this presentation, the more I think that you need to be talking. This is an opportunity. Okay, you're here to teach them how to take advantage of an opportunity, and just like anybody else. Okay, when you joined your marketing masterminds, okay, you probably considered yourself to be somebody who needed to learn a lot more. So you need to speak towards them and give them the belief that this is simple, okay, that it's really simple to do. You're here to just kind of explain it and why it's simple for newbies to take advantage of. So then everything inside of secret number 1, we need to reframe it, because like especially right in the beginning, you just talk about all negatives and all objections.
Yeah.
So I would take those objections and put them at your close, where like, like I don't know, maybe it's because I'm not in this industry, but like you're talking about reality and feature work, and I was getting really confused. Then you were talking about union work and pay negotiating. Like none of that stuff should be in here at all. And,
I think you're right.
Yeah, like that's gonna confuse your people, your audience right off the right at the
Yeah.
get-go. You never want to teach too much, which is why it's really a good idea to tell a story and then just kind of talk towards that story and explain why that story made sense and why that story happened. So like how you landed your first gig and how you ended up making more money than the camera producers and why, why newbies are in demand, or we've got 6 sound mixers, okay, which I don't know if is that the largest staff on a production crew? I mean, are they, is that the highest demand? I don't know. I mean, I'm just
Yeah.
kind of spitballing here, but like
Sure.
talk about that type of stuff and let them know that, listen, if you've got audio skills, you can be in the reality TV market and you can work your way up. Um, those working with green producers and like cut that stuff
Yeah.
out. Like don't,
Yeah. Yeah.
because you're just giving them reasons not to want to go into reality TV.
Gotcha.
Like crappy content, cut that out. Green producers,
Yeah.
cut that out. Um, Focus on the key benefit that it's easy for newbies to get into, and I think it'll be a lot more effective.
Sure. So secret number 1, I'm going to start with all the benefits and sell them on that. I'm going to cut out all the bad rap stuff, but should I still try to somehow address those objections that, they might have some preconceived notion that reality, most professional creatives think that reality TV is the bane of the, production world. It's shite, you know what I mean? It's crappy, and I mean, do we even need to address that or bring it up?
Are people bringing it up in your Q&A?
No, they're not. They're only bringing it up in the negative Nancy comments on the Facebook ads. So those are the guys that aren't even coming to the webinar anyway. So you're right.
Yeah. Okay. Then I wouldn't even address it. If you do want to
Yeah.
address it, just be like, listen, I mean, maybe even be a disqualifier. I mean, I don't know. I would err on the side of not even mentioning it altogether.
Yeah.
I mean,
Okay.
one thing that you could do is like, listen, this is not for people who are not. I mean, this is not for people who hate the reality. I don't know.
Yeah.
I would just err on the
even
side
bring
of
it up.
not even bringing it up. I think there are other objections that you probably want to speak towards
Yeah.
versus knocking that down.
Yeah. The biggest one is people think they have to live in LA or New York. So maybe I could throw in some more stories about that then.
That's a really good one, because that talks about a major concern. It's like, oh, I
Yeah.
don't want to move to LA. And I mean,
Right.
you've got stories about that. You moved to LA and just talk about why you didn't need to, or somehow make a story that relates to that. You want to make a story that talks about, I would even consider switching secret number 1 to be why reality TV is the perfect market for newbies, or something like that. If that's your market, like if that's your audience, then you want them to not even question if this presentation is for them.
Okay. Cool.
Cool. All right, let's do number 2.
All right.
I only need 3 clients a year to make 6 figures. Do you guys think you can get just 3 clients in a year? Yes, I think you can. All right, now I know for a lot of you guys out there, this seems backwards. Don't you want more clients? Why would you want less? Well, let me ask you this. Is it better to have a small handful of very high revenue clients or a whole ton of low revenue clients? Good question, huh? Well, let's take a look, and I'll share with you my perspective on this and how I'm able to hit 6 figures with only 3 clients and still take 3 months off every year, by the way. So let's look at the typical low revenue way of doing things. All right, the typical mixer is out there trying to get gigs here and there, but let's do the math to get to $100,000. Let's just say the average income per gig is $2,000. Now maybe that's a 2 or 3 day gig. Maybe you got some gear rental income in there, per diem, whatever. $2,000 on average. To get to $100,000, you'd need 50 gigs or 50 clients per year. The problem is that, number 1, you're not usually going to get 50 clients in a year. And number 2, even if you do, the scheduling won't line up well enough for you to do all of them. Some of them will have dates that overlap with others and vice versa, okay? So how can we get to 100K? Well, we have 2 options. 1 is you can increase your number of gigs, and 2 is you can increase your income per gig. Pretty interesting, huh? So let's do the math and see what we can do here, all right? Okay. Our goal is to get to $100,000 in a year. That's 12 months or 52 weeks total, right? Now, if you're making $550 a day on average, that's $2,750 per week. Now, you take that $100,000 goal and divide it by $2,750 per week, and that means you need to work just over 36 weeks to hit six figures. Now, the typical duration of a reality show production season is going to range from 4 to 18 weeks. All right, so let's look at some examples. House Hunters shoots pretty much year-round, okay, because they order episodes of that show in the hundreds at a time, okay. Real Housewives of Atlanta shoots about 5 months or 20 weeks. Property Brothers goes about 8 weeks. Amazing Race goes about 3 to 4 weeks. Show I was on recently, Redneck Island, goes about 4 weeks. World Poker Tour actually shoots year-round in 5-day runs. They're a little bit unique. So there's probably 13 5-day shoots per year. In other words, 13 weeks of work for the World Poker Tour, 1 week at a time though. So let's just say the average is 13 weeks for one show. So each show is 13 weeks long. Now if you're making $2,750 a week times 13 weeks, that means one show is worth $35,750 to you. Are you guys getting this? Okay. So if you get 3 shows a year, that means you're at $107,250 for the year. And you see that? Okay, total working time to make that much in a year is 39 weeks. That leaves 13 weeks or 3 whole months to do whatever you want, wherever you want. Are you guys getting this? Does this make sense? So now all of a sudden I don't need 50 little gigs, I need 3 big gigs. Isn't that awesome? And you see, that right there is how it's possible to make all that money and still take 3 months off every year. Isn't that awesome? So the key here is long-term gigs. But how do you get on these long-term shows? All right, I'm going to share with you the secret I was told by some of my early mentors when I was getting into this business back in Los Angeles on how to get on these long-term gigs. Now, this tip that I'm about to share with you came from one of the veteran crew guys on the Dr. Phil show. Now, he had one of the cushiest jobs in Hollywood. He's making great money. He's getting his union benefits. He's working 9 months out of the year on just one show, the Dr. Phil show. And he had probably been enjoying this lifestyle for decades by this point. So do not take this lightly, all right? Now, it may seem too simple to work, but this is what he told me, and I've found it to be true in my own career. He told me, Blair, here's the secret. Never turn down a one-day gig. Why? Well, because one-day gigs are what open your circle of contacts wider and wider so that you can connect with more and more people and create more and more friends in the business that want to hire you. Does that make sense? So even in his cushy gig at Dr. Phil, if he got a call to fill in for someone else for a day on another show, he would always take it. Now, he'd have to replace himself on Dr. Phil to do it, but why would he want to do that? Well, because you never know when one gig, even if it's just one day, is going to let you connect with that one producer or that one other crew member, and that connection turns into years of work down the road for you. Are you getting this? You're planting seeds. And when you've planted enough seeds that start growing and blossoming into full-grown trees, then you've got job security for life, even as a freelancer. Now, I'm talking about growing your single greatest asset as a freelancer, which is your network. Right? Your network is what feeds you throughout your career. Now, if you're just starting out, maybe you think you don't have a network or any connections, but I promise, with the right attitude, the right strategies, and the right tactics, you'll be surprised how many connections you really have. And those hidden connections that you have, whether they're first, second, or third degree connections to others in this business, are what allow you to get started with no connections and no experience, quote unquote, right? So you guys getting this? Okay, now that being said, not everybody crosses over from day player to long-term player though. What people don't realize is that it's about your people skills way more than it is about your technical skills. And there's a whole art and science to the people skills part of this, trust me. But suffice it to say, your level of success will seldom exceed your level of personal development. That's a quote from one of my favorite authors, Jim Rohn. But think about that. Whatever you want to achieve in life, whatever kind of person you aim to become, for example, a top-level pro sound mixer, you first have to work on yourself. Invest in yourself. Sharpen your skills. Improve your attitude. Improve your character. Show that you care. That's when you'll start attracting the success that you desire. Success won't make you a better person, but becoming a better person will increase your success. Does that make sense? Okay, you guys tracking me here? I want to make sure you're with me, because even though this may seem like simple stuff, this is the difference between success and failure as a broadcast sound mixer. Now, if you ask any sound mixer who's been in the business for more than a few years how they get their gigs, they're going to tell you it's about who you know and who knows you way more than it is about your technical skills. Technical skills are a given in this business, but even those with poor technical skills will excel if they have great people skills. Now, you've all heard about those guys who just keep failing their way to the top, right? That's what I'm talking about here. But now imagine that you aren't just failing your way to the top, but rather you're succeeding your way to the top. Does that make sense? Okay, cool. All right, well, let's move on then, because this last secret I'm going to share with you is really cool. Secret number 3, I don't need to own any expensive equipment to get gigs or start getting gigs if you haven't started yet, and I can still add. Okay.
So I get secret number 2. I only need 3 clients a year to make 6 figures and take 3 months off.
Yeah.
I think you talk a little bit too much about the math. I would just keep it to averages. You want to reveal to them the average gig, because that's what's going to click with them. The average gig. What can I expect to make on these average gigs, so I would just dumb it down a little bit when you get to that math calculation. Otherwise, it was a pretty good secret number 2. I don't really know if I would change a whole lot with that. You just want to reveal to them, making 6 figures is not as difficult as you might think, and maybe tell them that the average gig is worth $35,750, right? I mean, one show is 35 grand. So focus kind of on that number, and then be like, what if you got 3 of those? Okay, that's what's going to get you to 6 figures. Okay, so get them to believe that they can get 1 at that 35 grand, and convincing them that they can get 3 will be a whole lot easier. So focus on how they can get that first one for 35 grand, and then doing that 3 times a year it should be cake. So
okay.
All right, let's do secret number 3.
Okay.
20 to 30% of my income through gear rentals. Now you see, most people think you have to have your own kit, your own equipment to get started or to get work in this business. Now, of course, this can be pretty scary. Thinking about plopping down $10, $20, $30, $40,000 for a full 788 reality audio rig. But I'm living proof that you do not need to own gear to be successful in this business. I've been doing it since 2004. The reason is this. Fortunately, for us mixers in film and television, as opposed to music recording, renting gear is easy, okay, either from rental houses or from other sound mixers. So don't think you get gigs without gear, because, again, I've been doing it since 2004. Now, in fact, sometimes it can even help you if you don't own gear, because rental houses will hire you from time to time, but they're not going to hire your gear. So when I got started in Los Angeles, about 95% of my work came through this one particular gear rental house in Burbank, California. It's that one I told you about before, that I worked in their gear shop prepping their equipment for other shoots, all right? Now, in that scenario, for that gear rental company, their client, the production company, would call them up to rent a camera and audio package for the day, and along with that equipment, this gear rental house would send their operators out on the gig to actually operate the gear for their client. Now, I must have been near the top of their call list for sound mixers, because they really kept me busy back in the day, and I was so grateful for that, of course. But you see, if I had owned my own gear, I was never going to be able to rent it out to my biggest client, that rental house. Why would they rent my gear from me when they have a warehouse full of gear themselves? And if I had owned my own gear, I probably wouldn't have gotten as much work from them because they knew that I'd always be trying to rent my gear on their shoots. So sometimes it pays to not own the gear. Besides, some shows won't want to rent gear from you anyway, especially the bigger shows. They've got their own gear that they get from the bigger rental houses because they can get it much cheaper as one big package than they can get it from you. For example, the show Love and Hip Hop Atlanta? They do not rent gear from the mixers. Instead, actually, this is a little bit unique. The production company itself owns their own gear, so they're definitely not going to rent yours. In fact, one of my mixer friends is the sound supervisor on that show. And while she's grateful for that work because, like each season of that show is like 9 months long, she doesn't like that her gear is sitting home the whole time not making any money, right? But you see, right there is your opportunity if you don't own your own gear. Because what does she do to keep her gear working when she's on a show that won't rent her gear? She lets another mixer friend borrow it for those 9 months, and he pays her a portion of the gear rental income that he makes by using her gear on whatever gigs he gets called for. Are you guys getting this? This other mixer is making money on the gear rental without owning the gear. Now, this is more common than you probably think. So let me break this down for you in specifics on how I make money on gear rentals without owning the gear. Okay, so I have a mixer friend who's currently booked on a long-term show out of town without his gear. Now, he lets me keep his gear while he's gone, and I use it on my gigs and mark up the rental cost to my clients. For example, here's one of my favorite ways to do that, even without marking up the cost in this example. In fact, in this example I'm going to show you, I actually marked it down, and I still made money. So let me explain how this works, all right? So I got a call for a 7-day shoot for a pilot for Bravo, I think it was, plus 1 travel day. Now, they offered me $400 a day on top of my labor rate to provide the audio gear for the shoot. Now, this gear rate, the $400 a day for the gear, was actually a little bit low for the equipment that they wanted and needed for this shoot. Normally, it would go for about $500 a day minimum. So here's where it gets interesting, though. You see, my friend who owns the gear, of course, he wants to get that minimum $500 a day rental rate. However, he's willing to offer what's called a 3-day week. Now, this is standard practice in gear rentals. That means I get the gear from him for a whole week for the price of just 3 days, or $1,500, right? Then I turn around and rent it out to the production company for the rate that they wanted. Again, $400 a day, which is a little low, but I rent it to them for every day of use, or 7 whole days, not counting that travel day I mentioned, all right? So let's do the math here. Gear income was $400 a day times 7 days. That's $2,800 I got from the production company. Now, the gear sub-rental expense that I had was $500 a day times 3 days, which is only $1,500, as I said before. I paid that out to my friend who owns the gear.
Okay.
I'm going to have you skip over this part because we're running out of time, but I do want to give you a couple of comments on this. I don't think this fits in your presentation at all. This seems
The
more
math
like
part?
no, secret number 3 at all. I mean,
Really?
I mean, how does this tie into reality TV? How does this tie into them getting a gig in reality TV?
One of the objections is that they think they have to go buy $10,000, $20,000 worth of gear before they can start working. That's the main thing I'm addressing.
But you're really showing them how to make money without gear, right?
Right. So the first part of the secret was I don't need to own gear. The second part is how do I, here's how you can make money when you don't own gear. You can make money on the gear rental even if you don't own the gear.
This seems like
irrelevant.
more of a bonus inside of a course. Be like, hey, like I'm going to show you how to make money without gear. I mean, you want to, like, it's just way too much teaching in here. Like I was completely lost with the numbers and the figures, and like it needs to be more related towards getting them their first gig. And so if their objection is, I don't have any gear, just make it like how to get your first gig without any gear. Like don't show them like how to make money. Like this is more teaching. Like I said, that you could you could probably teach this as a bonus because you're showing them how to make money without having any gear. Like, but
Sure.
you still want them to believe that they can get a gig without having any expensive gear costs. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah, totally.
So yeah, just keep the secret like related to the opportunity of how they can land their first gig without any gear, and like that's going to get them to believe. So tell a story about how you got your first gig without gear, or somehow tell
Yeah.
a story that relates to that, and then
Yeah.
just explain the concepts behind it, and
Okay.
like why it actually why you're actually more likely to get a job without any gear, or tell them the hidden secret of how to get a job with a gear rental house, like how to get their first gig with their first reality TV gig with a gear rental house, or something like that. So
Sure.
just you
Okay,
got to
cool.
keep it related to them getting their first reality TV gig. So and without without making it too complicated. So this one you're definitely teaching way too much.
Okay, cool.
All right. So let's go ahead and okay, so you still got 15 minutes. We've only got about 20 minutes left on the call, so let's go ahead and just
Yeah.
yeah.
So after that secret, I just do a little more future pacing. Imagine this scenario. I'm not special. Recap and then transition to the close. Let me ask you a question. Do you feel like this?
Yep.
I ask permission, just like Russell does.
Very special package to help kind of take you guys to the next level with this. And I hope it's okay to share this with you. I hate kind of assuming that I deserve permission to tell you about this. Hopefully enough you hear that it's okay with you guys, all right? And I really do want to help you guys become successful, all right? So what I did was I created a program called Six-Figure Sound Mixer Secrets. And the goal of this program is, I don't want you guys to be successful 6 months from now. I don't want you guys to be successful a year from now or 5 years from now. I want you guys to be successful right now. And so the way we do that is by shortcutting this process, by career hacking our way into this, making it simpler, making it easier. So I created this six-figure sound mixer system with the goal of setting up this process for you. All right, so the first thing you're going to get when you invest today in this program is the Six-Figure Sound Mixer Secrets training program, which is a $3,497 value. Now, this is a 5-week in-depth training showing you step-by-step how to shortcut this process of either launching or growing your career as a reality TV sound mixer. This is something nobody else is teaching right now. It's the exact process I used to launch my career, but I'm going to show you how to do it in 5 weeks instead of 5 years. Now, as you're going through this, I'm going to show you how to first build your network from scratch so you can get into this business without any prior connections. Second, I'm going to show you how to not look green on set so you can look like you know what you're doing even if you don't. This is how we shortcut that whole paying your dues process. Third, I'm going to show you how to build your resume so that you can use it as a tool to help you get gigs faster and faster, all right? Fourth, you're going to learn how to build up your momentum so you can become an established mixer who doesn't have to worry about making enough money each month. And fifth, I'm going to show you how to build your pipeline so you can make sure your calendar fills itself automatically each month and you can put food on the table for you and your family forever. All right, now these 5 steps have literally made me hundreds of thousands of dollars as a sound mixer. And I'm going to walk you through each of them step by step so you can implement them in your own career. Now, this is the secret to shortcutting your way up the ladder in this business so you can skip that whole paying your dues part of the process like I wish I could have done, all right? So the first thing you're going to get, like I said, is the Six-Figure Sound Mixer Secrets training
Let's
program.
pause it real quick.
Worth $3,000.
Okay.
So the introduction into your close is really important for everyone else who's listening. So I want you to back up real quick,
Okay.
and let's go to yep, let's go right here. That title slide.
And to add 20 to 30% to my income through gear rentals. So let me ask you a question here. Now, we've been going on for a good while here, and
Yeah,
I'm
just go to
curious,
the next
how
slide.
many of you guys
okay.
feel a little bit like this?
This slide or no?
Now, I saw
next
this
one.
picture online on
Okay.
Six-Figure Sound Mixer.
So I actually learned this from Frank Kern, and the way that he tells people to his offer setup is really slick, and the way that he does it is simple. Okay, so this is your here's what I've got. He breaks it down into 3 steps. When you introduce your offer, you start out with here's what I've got. Then you do here's what it will do for you, which is basically just a bunch of benefit-driven statements, and here's how it's set up. Okay, so here's your here's what I've got. Okay, so what I've got for you is my Reality Sound School 6-figure sound mixer secrets, and then he immediately goes into 3, 4, or 5 key benefit statements. Okay, so what I've got for you is the 6-figure sound mixer secrets, and so if you want to learn how to become a high-paid sound mixer, and you never want to rely on shitty payments, or basically just hit like 3 or 4 key core benefits. Okay, they're not features. Make sure you hit 3 or 4 key benefits, and you might even want to consider making them their own slide. Like so if you want to earn the freedom of making more money, and you want to be respected for what you do, and you never want to have to guess where your next paycheck's coming, or whatever it is, those 3 or 4 key benefits, but make them their own slides. They stand out. And so they instantly know what they're going to achieve before they even know what your product is really built up. So you want those benefits right in the beginning so they know exactly what you're going to do for them. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, so you got here's what I've got. Then you go right into here's what it will do for you. And now you go into here's how it's set up. So that doesn't take more than 30 seconds or something. Okay, so what I've got is the 6-figure sound mixer secret. So if you want to XYZ, then this program is specifically for you. Okay, here's how it's set up. Now go to your first slide where you talk about what's in the program that we just listened to. Okay, so right here you go to that slide again. You talk about the 6-figure sound mixer secrets, and it's a $3,497 value. Okay, take out the value when you're talking about the. You mentioned the value too soon.
Okay.
You've given them the benefits statements now, and they know what they can achieve, and so start talking about more benefits of what this 6-figure sound mixer secrets program is going to do for them. Okay, so then you go to the next slide.
Okay. All right, then we hit these 5 bullets.
Yep, you hit the 5 bullets, which are good, good benefits. So you build your network, not look green, so you can look like you know what you're doing. Build your resume, build your momentum, and build your pipeline. Okay. So you talk about all of this and how valuable it is, and how you made hundreds of thousands of dollars. So you've built up this perceived value, and you've built up how much they can picture how much they're going to make, and now you give them the value. Like this is easily worth $3,497. Okay, but before you reveal any price or any value, you just want to make sure that you've given your program enough due diligence to actually build it up in their minds. Like they need to constantly believe that it's worth $34.97. So before you even reveal the value, just make sure you're building that beforehand.
Okay. Should I, have this fly in after I go through the 5 bullets, or should it be on the next slide where the stack is?
Nope. You can put it. Just make it at the end of that.
Yeah.
Okay. End of the bullets.
Cool.
Okay.
All right. So then we got the stack.
Figure Sound Mixer Secrets training program worth $3,497. Now this is all the career training you'll need to shortcut your way into this business. However, that's not the whole picture, because you also got to make sure you have the technical skills to pull off any job you get hired for, right? So the next thing you're going to get is the Build Your Confidence Comprehensive Gear Training, which is a $2,497 value. Guys, this is all the gear training you'll need to meet or exceed the technical skills of the top-level sound mixers you're going to be working with.
So do the exact same thing.
Yeah.
Talk about this part, and then 4 or 5 key bullet points, and then be like, this is worth $24.97. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Top ranks of reality TV sound mixers, because nobody else.
Yeah, so there's the bullets. Reveal the value after the bullets. Got it. Go back to the stack.
And you instant lifetime access to both of those trainings, so you can start immediately, you can move at your own pace, and you can refer back to any of this training at any time in the future. Plus, I've included access to our private members-only Q&A forum right alongside this training in the members area. So if you have any questions about anything in there, I'll be able to answer them directly for you and help you out, all right? I'm not going to leave you hanging, all right? Now, on top of that, I'm also going to send you 5 weekly downloadable coaching calls so you can stay accountable and stay on track with your progress and success in this program. Now, this is a $997 value. These calls are super important because they're going to give you even more insight into the training, plus more actionable content to round out your skills. And these are all downloadable, so you can listen to them whenever you want. You don't have to worry about missing each week's call if you're not available, all right? So you get the 6-figure Sound Mixer Secrets training, the Build Your Confidence comprehensive gear training, and the 5 weekly downloadable coaching calls. Total value of $6,991. And then to top it all off, upon successful completion of this training, you're going to earn our Level 1 Sound Mixer certification, which is a $1,497 value. This is an extra credential you can put on your resume to show prospective clients that you're trained and qualified to be the sound mixer on their shoot. So you can have that edge over all the other sound mixers vying for that gig. Just think about it. This is going to let you rise above the rest with much more credibility when sending out your resume. All so you can get hired on more gigs and put more money in your pocket. Make sense? Okay. All right, so let's recap what you're getting. You're going to get the 6-figure Sound Mixer Secrets training, the Build Your Confidence comprehensive gear training, the weekly downloadable coaching calls, and the Level 1 Sound Mixer certification. Total value of $8,488. Now, I want to show you guys some testimonials of some of my previous students who have been through this training, all right?
All right.
Okay.
Go back to your go back to that previous slide with the stack.
Okay.
So, and you can use this for every single stack that you do, especially in the beginning when you're really trying to build up the value. Do you give bonuses after this?
Yeah. Yeah, after
Okay.
the testimonials.
Okay. You need to spend more time on your stack, okay? Because we've already hit 4 stacks so far, and I think it was only about a couple minutes.
Yeah.
You need to do it justice, and every time that you recap one of your stacks, you need to give it 1 to 2 core benefits of each bullet point. Okay, so so just so you know what you're going to get, you're going to get the 6-figure Sound Mixer Secrets training. So and this is the shortcut. This is what's going to show you how to build your business, and this is what's going to show you how to make your income. Okay, and the total value of this $3,497. Then you're going to get the Build Your Confidence complete gear training. The complete shortcut to blah, 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 blah. Okay, that's valued at $24.97. Then you're going to do the weekly downloadable coaching calls, blah, 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 blah. That's valued. So you need to keep building it up and keep building it up.
Do that every time.
Yeah, I mean, like, you want to do it more. You want to spend a little bit more time in the beginning. But, like, every time that you do another stack, you can kind of trim it down just a little bit longer because you can trim it down just a little bit more. But in the beginning, like, especially when you're introducing all of this stuff, like, you really need to hammer it home because people don't, their attention spans are so short. You need to keep reminding them of what they're going to be getting and just blow their mind with their value. And so you do that by as many benefit-driven statements as possible. Okay, so and then you go, and then the total value of this is over $8,488. Guys, don't you think it's worth $8,488 if I can get you 1 gig, that's $35,000 or whatever it is?
Mm-hmm.
So like you need to spend a little bit more time, kind of just like talking to them and getting them to do a little bit more future pacing, and just like does this get you? Does this and stuff like that? I mean, it just kind of seems like you're going a little too quick through the close.
Okay.
Let's go ahead and hit play.
You're going to get the sick and doing a few day play gigs here and there, but now I just got booked on my first long-term show, a 4-week gig starting in a couple weeks, making close to $2,000 per week. Isn't that awesome, you guys? This is a guy who just spent a whole ton of money to get a degree from a traditional film school in Orlando, Florida, but it wasn't until he went through this training that he finally got booked on a long-term gig. Now, I may or may not be the best at math, but that sounds like a good chunk of change to me. How would that change your life right now if you had a gig like that? And you're probably thinking, Blair, there's no way I'm going to make that much money in a month. But if you had asked Andrew that a few months ago, he would have said the same thing, but now he's there because he went through the training. Does that make sense, you guys? Isn't that awesome? Okay. All right. Next we have Larry Lucky. Now Larry's another one of my favorite guys. He just has this totally
Let's go ahead and skip
positive
the testimonials. We've got 4 minutes left.
So, and this is the video testimonial. It's about 2.5 minutes. Who this has worked for, and based on the testimonials we just saw. So, like the first one was a filmmaker, and then, you know, then we move on. You know, try to overcome this thing where they, you know, if they haven't been to school, because all these people have been to recording school or film school, but it sets up the first bonus. So if you don't have an audio background, we recap the stack real quick, and then bonus number 1 is this poor man's recording school. So if you don't have the audio background, I'm going to give it to you here. This is all the basics you need that you would get out of a traditional recording school, but I'm going to give it to you in 9 easy modules as opposed to 2 years of your life. What's that? Say it again. Oh, man. I got to get my... That's funny. Okay, so I'll change that. Record. You know, nobody's mentioned that before, surprisingly. So yeah, then we go through just like we did with the other ones. Sorry, and so it'll be the same format then as the other ones, right? Okay, and then do the stack again, and then do the old Russell. What else would you guys need? Okay, I know you guys need. Some of you guys need income now. That's why I'm also going to give you this Get Gigs Now audio freelancer marketing system. It's going to show you how to get your phone ringing ASAP. With gigs. All right, and some bullets about that one. Stack again. And then how about some job placement assistance? Well, here's how we do that. 12 months access to our industry insider circle. So we'll put you in our crew database and our private Facebook group, and we have monthly live Q&A conference calls. And so we'll actually we'll be looking for gigs for you as well.
Cool. So I think Blair, I mean, because you've already you get about 1 sale per webinar. I think your close is probably pretty solid. I think the and I can already tell just by kind of looking how it's set up. I think if you make just the minor adjustments that I kind of I gave you about how to build the value, I think that'll help. But I mean, overall, your stack is I mean, you have it set up better than most people that I've seen. So you really get it. So I don't think we need to spend a whole lot more time on the stack, but I think if you go through and listen to this recording and really shift the messaging of what we talked about earlier, and make sure that you're talking to the majority of the people who are on, which are people who aren't in the reality TV market. They don't think that, or they might not even know about that market. They don't think that they can get into it. Like, you need to present this opportunity as like, hey, this is real. Okay, this is you can get into this, and this is where the money is, and there's a huge demand for us right now. So I think that's where you're going to get the most benefit, is just kind of reshaping what we talked about with your secrets and your introduction, and making sure that big idea, that big opportunity is clear